Hello, everybody. Okay. We got several people coming in. You can turn on your video if you want. You can turn on your audio if you want. As I said before, I prefer to see video so I can see that you guys are paying attention. Trying to fix the fact, boy, this COVID virus is causing me to lose lots of hair. Can you please check VM78? Yes, I can. Do you mind if I get to the, go through the class first? And then I'll be sure to check it afterwards because I'm recording this so you can watch it afterwards, or you can just watch it now. I'm going to basically do a walkthrough. It's probably simpler than what you guys might have seen online with respect to checking, with respect to installing WordPress. Let's wait a couple more minutes. Hi there. Good to see you. So our goal today, and I know you guys are probably in various states of doing things, but our goal today is we want to install WordPress so that we can start making real websites. Not really real websites, because again, these are only accessible from within the EI lab. Unless I were to do something like put in forwards in the firewall there, which I might do. But for development purposes, when you guys are creating websites for informational purposes or blogging or whatever you want to do, you don't want them to be shared anyway on the public internet to begin with. So I'm gonna share my screen in just a minute. I'm gonna open a little WordPad document here so I can make notes on what I'm doing and share that at the same time. Okay, can you guys see my screen with the empty WordPad on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And let me open up a blank Google document and bring it over here. A record request. Yeah, and I'm recording this too. Did you guys see the that I had published the last class's recording on YouTube? Did you guys find it okay?
I don't see the link anywhere.
Okay, I published it just about an hour ago on the Blackboard.
Okay.
In an announcement. You should have an announcement in your email. But if you didn't, even if you didn't get that, you should be able to go to YouTube and just Google for my name, or Google for MIS 4397, or search for it on YouTube, I should say. And you should find my YouTube channels. There's only 2 channels on there, MIS 4397 for this class and MIS 4477. So should be able to easily find those. And I'm recording this one and I'm going to publish this one as well. Okay, so first of all, let's make some notes here. What's our goal for today? Whatever you want. Eat whatever you want. What was that? You must have been playing my video.
Yeah.
Eat whatever you want, huh?
Sorry. You heard it?
Yeah, I sure did.
Okay. That's good.
So pay attention as we want to install WordPress. Where do we want to install WordPress? I want to install it underneath a Virtualmin site that you've already set up. Okay, so it's going to differ from the way you might have already seen some notes. Like if you were to go to wordpress.org and read up on how to install it under CentOS or under Debian, it might have some instructions. It might say you're going to be putting it under var www HTML. But we are not doing that. And that's because we're putting it under Virtualmin. And the reason that we're doing that is, let's say that you have multiple websites. You've got, for example, the website that I've set up on one of my VMs is funkycat2020.com. Okay, this is on one of my VMs. If you guys remember, I had set that up and was showing you how to access that. Now I'll go through that again real quick just to make sure that's functioning. Once you set up that domain, it creates a folder with the name of the domain. It usually leaves off the .com. So there should be a folder called Home Funkycat 2020 created for funkycat2020.com on my Virtualmin machine, whatever IP address is running it. And then it's going to create a folder underneath that called public_HTML. So this is the home directory that you want to put WordPress in, or you want to put anything in, not that. Okay, that /var www HTML is only for, by the way, Tony, are you able to record now? I should have put it on for you.
No, I don't see it yet.
I clicked on allow record. Let me try it one more time.
Okay.
Okay, did that work for you?
Let me see. Yes.
Should be on allow record. Okay, so keep that in mind first of all, that whatever notes you read, if it says, hey, refer to that folder, that is not correct. That is only assuming you're running a single domain or a single website on a specific IP address. Okay. So when you install WordPress, if you had multiple domains, this is just a little bit of starter information. If you have multiple domains on Virtualmin, you've got funkycat 2020, and then you have a funkycat 2021, or anything else.com, every WordPress installation is unique. In other words, you have to install WordPress for this domain. Then if you start up another domain, you have to install WordPress, including all the program files for that domain as well, and set up a separate database for them. You do not, you can, but it's not recommended. You should just set up individual WordPress application installations per domain. Okay, so keep that in mind first. Okay, so first of all, let's make sure that I have a funkycat 2020 that I can use. So I'm going to go remote view my machine in the lab. It's going a little slow earlier, so I hope it'll speed up on this one. Okay, so I have this machine here, Jake CentOS 7 on Proxmox 6. That's interesting that it says it's off. I don't think it was off. I was just using it. Or I also have Proxmox, Jake CentOS 7 on Proxmox 2. Let me take a look at my hosts file, because maybe sometimes you might forget wherever you've installed something. So as long as you're using your hosts file for your DNS. So do you guys remember how to get to the hosts file? Let me just go through that again, just so that it's in the recording here. So I'm going to run, I clicked on my start button underneath Windows. I know you don't see the start button over here, but I clicked on my Windows start button and I typed in Notepad in the, or for Windows 10, you just click on this, this flag, type in Notepad. Before you hit enter though, you need to make sure to right click it and run it as administrator. So I found the Notepad program here. I know you can't see this, but I'll show it to you in just a minute. Or I tell you what, I could share my screen. You want me to share the screen one? No, I don't want to change that. It's going to mess everything up. Just Google for that if you can't find it, but I'm going to bring up Notepad here. So. Okay, I have Notepad running here. I've started it up as the administrator. Now I'm going to click on File and I'm going to click on Open. And I'm going to navigate to a particular folder. First of all, I'm going to change that text document to all files, because what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a file called hosts. And if you remember from before, your hosts file for Windows, you go to the C drive here first and you look under Windows. So double click on that, and I'm going to go to the System32 folder. And then I'm going to look for the drivers folder. There it is. And then I'm going to look for the etc folder, which is just like the etc folder in Linux. Where that really should be, in my opinion, that etc folder should be in the root drive of Windows, but it's not. So, and there's that host file. So again, make sure you've changed that. If you don't change that to all files, you don't see anything. You have to change it to all files, because hosts does not have an extension on it. It's not host.txt. Okay, you guys all following me so far?
Yeah.
Double click that on it to edit it. Oh, that's interesting. The reason I stopped doing that for a minute is because I could have sworn I edited that. Oh, I know what the problem is. I'm stupid. That's what the problem is. I'm supposed to be doing it from here. I was doing it on my local computer going, hey, why don't I see it? So I can show it to you. Okay, so Notepad, run as administrator. Yes. Empty Notepad file, open. Now I've already navigated to that folder from before. Change that to all files. Notepad remembers where you were before. Double click on the hosts file and just make sure that you have an entry here for your domain that you've already set up. So on this machine here, whatever that is, a virtual machine or a container, that IP address 192.168.30.219, that's where I had installed Virtualmin, and that's where I set up that domain funkycat 2020. Okay, so make sure that's in there first. You can click on File and Save and leave that open if you want. You just put it aside because you may go set up a domain, or you may want to test it for somebody else. You know, Jade might say, hey, can you go check out my website? Here's my IP address, 192.168.30, whatever it is. And you can go ahead and put their name in your hosts file as well. So I usually just leave mine open so I can test the student names. I need to locate the virtual machine that I was running this on. Pretty sure that's it there. So I'm going to check my network credentials. This is a container. Double click that. Yeah, 192.168.30.219. So that's just verifying that that's the machine that I believe I had that funkycat 2020 installed on. It's not running right now, so I'm going to turn it on. And the reason it's not running is because I was doing something on it earlier. I took a snapshot and I rolled back. And a lot of times when you do a rollback, it turns the container off or it turns the virtual machine off. So that's what happened there on that. I was concerned because I didn't see it running. Okay, so my machine is at 192.168.30.219. Domain is funkycat. My username and password for that machine, don't go messing it up, by the way. But the only reason I'm sharing this is just for myself, my own notes, because this is information that you need. So you need to already know, or you need to have remembered what the password was, both for the virtual machine, the container that you set up, as well as when you set up Virtualmin. So I'm going to, in this case, I'm going to try using PuTTY. If you're unable to use PuTTY, use the console mode. Pull that up a little bit bigger. In other words, use console mode, use the external console mode. But as I mentioned in the last class, you need to be getting in a good habit of using PuTTY. So I got my PuTTY window open here, starting a new session. I've already got, I should have already saved in here somewhere. But if I don't, I'll just go ahead and add it. Oh, that's actual host name or IP address. Now this should work. Since I added that funkycat 2020, I should be able to type in funkycat2020.com there and save that. But I don't really want to do that because I might have multiple domains on there. So I'm going to actually put in the real IP address, 30.219. And I'm going to save that as Jake Santos 7 on Proxmox 6. Just something to identify it. Save that, open that. You'll get that warning the first time when you run PuTTY saying, hey, this is a new machine I don't know about. Root, and my password I had already set before, 123456. I set that when I built the container. Let me blow up this font real quick so you can see better. I think a 14-point font should be big enough. Okay, I need to check various things. First of all, if you were using the console mode and not PuTTY, because maybe PuTTY didn't work, you need to check a few things like, do you have the right IP address, IP space address? And I'm looking for, and actually all that junk on the screen, if that's too much for you to look at, you can type an IP space address, use the pipe command, and just look for 192.168. Excuse me, I forgot the grep command. Grep for 192.168, and it'll just give you that one line. In other words, it looked through all this junk that it spat out on the screen, and it just gave us that one line. So I use these little shortcuts all the time to find the information I needed. Or you could have grepped for inet if you knew. See, you already had to have known that, but if you already know that inet is the determining string there, there's the IP address there. You might want to try pinging Google's public DNS. That works. You might try pinging google.com, then make sure that works. May not ping google.com, but it definitely did a lookup. So I know I've got DNS. Then I need to make sure, and I've already done this before, installed Virtualmin. I'm going to assume that you can install Virtualmin and you have it installed already somewhere because I've gone over this. I need to make sure it's working. So I'm going to do ps space awux. By the way, and when I use all these options on the commands like px command, it doesn't matter in which order you put those in. A lot of people put them in alphabetical order. The reason I do them like that is because it's burned into my brain that way, because that's how I learned it. AWUX, it also makes a word. So that shows me all the running processes. And bear in mind, by the way, I'm not on Proxmox, I'm on my CentOS. And I'm going to then use the pipe command. I'm going to grep for the specific process that is associated with Virtualmin, which is called miniserve, but I'm just going to search for the word mini, M-I-N-I. And I see that there are at least two processes of it running. So that's a good sign. That tells me, oh, okay, miniserve has been installed. It's running this configuration file. Look in the host file there. Okay, so that means that my Virtualmin should be working. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to log into Virtualmin. I've already logged into it or over here, but I'll log out and log back in so you can see what I'm doing. So I went to 192.168.30.219:10,000. Need to put HTTPS in front. If you just put 192.168, it might say, hey, this site is using HTTPS, and it'll try to direct you to the public IP address, which won't work. Okay, so make sure that you just get it right in the first place. Type in HTTPS:/2/. You're welcome, Matthew, by the way. And take all that out. 92.168.30.219:10,000. That's because that's the port that it runs on. Username is root, and the password is the same as the root password for the virtual machine itself. And I'm logged into Webmin and Virtualmin here, okay? Now, WordPress, before we even look at installing WordPress, we need to make sure that our virtual machine has been set up. I see a FunkyCat 2020 there, which I set up. And I went with pretty much all of the defaults when I set it up. So when you set up a virtual domain, it makes a username and a folder derived from the virtual domain's name. So I wanted to create funkycat2020.com. So it created a user called funkycat2020. I set the password also, because you could have set it to anything you wanted, but I went ahead and also set it to 1234556. So let's just make those notes here under Virtualmin for funkycat2020.com. My user is funkycat2020, and my password I made 1234556 just to make it easy. Also, every domain that you create, every virtual domain that you create, Virtualmin goes ahead and creates a database for you. So if I click over here on Edit Database, you will notice that there also is a database. This is an SQL database called funkycat2020. It creates one for you. Now, when you read the instructions on installing WordPress, they recommend that you create a database called WordPress and create a user called WordPress user. We don't really need to do that because, as I said before, we want to install a separate WordPress installation for each domain that we created. So if I created funkycat2020.com and I already got a database called funkycat2020, let's just use that one. Okay, so I can click on that database and we should see nothing in it so far. There are no tables in it yet. We're going to add, when we install WordPress, we will create some tables that are going to go in there when we run the WordPress installation. You might need to change the password for that database, but I think it's also the 123456. So there's a database called funkycat2020. And by the way, I'll just mention, if you decided, if you made another domain and you called it the same name, but you made it funkycat2020.edu or .org or any other TLD name, that's okay. You can do that. What'll happen is it will create a user with the extension because it'll realize, hey, I've already got a user called that. What's that in Perl? So it will end up creating a user called funkycat2020.org. Okay, just keep that in mind. And then the database will also be called funkycat2020.org. And that's to keep it from overwriting. It's separate. Funkycat.com is separate from funkycat.org, but most people who are running Virtualmin don't have multiple domains with the same name on them. Or even if they do, they don't typically set up additional WordPress sites or additional sites for those alternative names. What they do instead is they set up aliases. So funkycat.org and funkycat.net and funkycat.wtf or whatever you call it is an alias and points right back to funkycat2020.com. So just pointing all of that out in case you guys were experimenting and realized, hey, it didn't make a folder and a user called that. It made a folder and a user called your domain name .the TLD, and that's because you probably created two with the same name just a different TLD. Okay, so my point is back here, we've already got a user called FunkyCat. We've already got a database called FunkyCat. Before you go any further, you probably need to change the password of MySQL, the root password, because in order to add any additional databases, and actually I think I'm going to just stop on that, because normally WordPress installs, they want you to install it under the root user. I'm just going to go ahead and show you this if you were installing this somewhere else, not using the database that Virtualmin created. I clicked on Webmin. I'm going to click on servers. I'm going to come down here to MySQL database server. Because the first time that you install CentOS and you install the LAMP stack, if you did not set a password when you installed the MySQL part, it generates a random password for the root user. So I need to click on user permissions there. And I possibly need to change the password for the root user. These are all the same thing, but so I'm going to just click on root there. And you can change the password right there if you want. I'm not going to change the password for that. But the reason I am showing you this is in case for whatever reason you did not set a root password or it messed up your root password for the Virtualmin user here, which is FunkyCat 2020, you can come here, click that, and actually change it here. So I could change it right there to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, for example, as well. Okay, I'm not going to change it to that because I already know it's that. So I'm not going to change that. Didn't change it. Okay, so I verified that I have actually maybe I should verify. So I need to verify and make sure that FunkyCat 2020 is working. I'm going to show you a couple of other things that are kind of cool where you don't have to use the command line in PuTTY just to check things out. I got PuTTY running there. I'll click back on Virtualmin. Okay. I'm in FunkyCat 2020. And by the way, if you have multiple domains, they'll just list down the screen here. Notice that you have a file manager, a GUI file manager there. Let's click on that. That file manager will take us to exactly where I need to go with respect to this domain. Here I am. I'm in, and it tells me several things. I can see the file structure of the rest of the server, but I'm right now under FunkyCat 2020. That's the users folder. And then there's a public HTML folder, and it threw me in there too. And that's probably because that's the last thing I accessed. But that is where, right here, that's where we're going to install all the WordPress files that we download. So WordPress has both files and databases, database tables that it needs to install. The only thing that's there right now is this index.html, excuse me. If I right click on that, I can literally edit that file right here, which is kind of cool, huh? Or is it? Or can I? I should have been able to. It's probably blocking a pop-up or something. Or maybe I'm not seeing it. Well, that's okay. I'll just go back to PuTTY. But this is helpful because it shows me what the directory structure is in a nice, pretty GUI tree. So now I can use that in conjunction with PuTTY to help me out, help me go where I need to go. So I need to go to, and I'll show you a few shortcuts here. There's a user called FunkyCat 2020. If I want to get into that user's folder quickly, notice I'm logged in as root right now. I could have logged in as FunkyCat 2020, but I'm logged in as root. CD, tilde, and then the username. And it'll take me to the home folder of that user, which the Virtualmin created. PWD, print working directory. It's put me there where I need to be. If I do it ls space minus LA, I see that I've got a public HTML folder. And all those folders are owned by Funky Cat, which is good and nice. I might even want to become the Funky Cat user for right now. I might need to install some things, so I'm not going to do it yet. I'm going to stay the root user for right now. So we should be prepared. Index.html. It's a hello world meow. Let me just nano that to prove that that's the right file. Just to prove to myself that this is what I am actually looking at. Today is it's my son's 27th birthday. Send him texts and stuff for happy birthday. Hasn't responded back. I guess he hates me. You know, he's a millennial, so what do you expect? No, I'm sure he's busy. So let's just make sure that works. I'll go to funkycat2020.com. I'm getting the today is 4/8/2020. So that tells me, all right, I've got the right folder. You're a Zoomer. Is a Zoomer before the millennials, by the way, or after? Does that mean you're smarter than millennials? After. Yeah, I find actually, well, never mind. I don't want to get socially political. People get mad at me because about half of you are millennials. Okay, so that tells me I'm in the right spot. Now, when you install WordPress, and let's go Google for it. I'm going to specifically Google for this. I already know how to do it, but I'm going to Google for it. How to install WordPress on CentOS 7, but I'm also going to add Virtualmin and see if I can find anything specific to Virtualmin, because that'll help me with the right folders. I wish I was too. You could have such blatant disregard for, okay, let's not get each other pissed off at everybody. I'm what you call a baby boomer. That's how old I am. Installing WordPress and Virtualmin, that's HostWinds. I like DigitalOcean's instructions. So let's see if I can find one at DigitalOcean. Let's see, CentOS VPN, or there's one at Virtualmin. That one's probably pretty good. Let's check it and see what it says. I already know how to do this, so you're going to follow my instructions if they deviate from this. So let's just take a look here. First thing we need to do is update everything, possibly install Perl. We probably don't need to. We probably already have it. We possibly need to install wget, because you have to wget the package. It's not a yum install or an apt-get install package. It's a wget, and that's because there really is not an official text-based installation. It's that you download a bunch of HTML files and a bunch of scripts, and then you run these scripts using PHP and Perl to build the databases manually. So first thing I would do if I were you is just try running that wget to see if it even works. Okay, so I'm going to copy that link address, and where I'm wgetting that at. I'm sorry, that's how to install Virtualmin. I apologize. We've already got Virtualmin installed. You guys needed to stop me and say, that's not WordPress. How to install WordPress. Let's try this one. How to install WordPress in Virtualmin. Excuse me, that's what we want. We already got Virtualmin installed. You guys aren't catching me. Gen X has left the chat. Oh, see, you pissed somebody off. Okay. How to install WordPress in Virtualmin. Let's see if this one is more correct. Log into Virtualmin, select Webmin, select other, select file. Oh, that's kind of cool. So it's actually telling us how to do it in the GUI. Navigate to where you would like to install WordPress, select upload to the current directory, click paperclip. Interesting. So we could do it that way if you wanted. But I'm going to show you how to do the wget version, just because that's how I know how to do it. So you can do one of two things. You can either download WordPress 4.7.1 first to your PC, Or the quicker way is to use the wget and wget it directly from the WordPress website. I don't think, yeah, they don't even talk about wget here. So let's go away from this for just a minute. So I'm just going to pretend for a minute that I'm installing WordPress on straight CentOS 7. There's the DigitalOcean link like I like. What I'm looking for is the wget command. And it should talk about having all the same prerequisites. Wget. There's the wget command that I want. So I'm going to copy and paste that. Then I'm going to go back to my PuTTY window. And I'm going to step once back from public HTML. So I'm in this folder right now. I'm going to step back from that because I don't want to download the distribution directly into that folder because I may need to make some changes to it. And maybe I just want to download it once and then copy it to another folder somewhere else. So I don't want to edit my original download. So I'm going to back up one directory. Or you could have created a downloads directory, like mkdir downloads. I'll execute the wget command here. I'm going to give myself a fresh line. Right click, wget. This it's about it should not take more than 30 seconds to download this. It's about a 5 GB installation file. Excuse me, 5 MB, not 5 GB. Oh, it's bigger now. I guess that's good. It's gotten a little bit bigger. Not very big. Looks like it's about 12 megabytes these days. So if your VMs are working and your Virtualmin is working, you should probably be doing this at the same time as I did. However, one important thing that I have not done yet that I probably should have done, that I always tell you guys you should do is, if you mess this up, you want to be able to go back the other direction. So what should I have done that I did not do, guys? Should have made a snapshot. I'm going to click on snapshot here. So before I go anywhere else, oh yeah, see, I'd already made a snapshot. And I didn't remove it. I'm going to go ahead and take another snapshot before WordPress 2.0. Okay. Oh, I can have a point in there. Second try. How about that? During class. So just in case I screw up my WordPress installation or I screw something up, I can go back to, I can roll back and do the wget and do all that stuff all over again. So make sure, please do that first before we go any further. That will avoid a lot of emails to me saying, hey, I tried to install WordPress, I made a typo and screwed things up. Okay, so now we've got this file called latest.tar.gz. That's kind of equivalent to a zip file. Notice that it's owned by root. I probably want to change that, but that's okay. I'll just keep it as that for now, and I'll show you how to change the ownership after the fact. Then it says, then the instructions say to use the tar command to untar that. Am I going too slow for you guys? I can speed up if you want. Not going too slow? Okay. Tar command. The tar command is basically your, what do you think tar stands for? Do you know, Rahi, what tar stands for and why it's called tar? That's our compression and expand. That's our program that manages zipped files or manages archived files.
If I had to guess, I'd say something like tape archive package or something like that.
That's exactly what it stands for, tape archive. And that's because the tar command has been around for many, many years. And we used to use the tar command to store multiple files sequentially onto tape drive for backups. So tar is a backup program. We never bothered to change the name to anything else because tar is kind of an interesting name. But people ask me, why do you call the backup program the generic backup program for Linux tar? I said, because it's a throwback to 35 years ago.
Well, then how come they came up with tar balls?
So that's because what a tarball is it's basically like a distribution all wrapped up into one single file. So we downloaded this file called latest.tar.gz. There's several files and several folders in there, all rolled up into what's called a tarball. So what happens is people take that term and they go, okay, in real life, tar is like that stuff they put on the road, and it comes out on little balls. So they said a tar ball is basically a rolled up tar archive. So same way we get the word less. So I need to untar that. So here's the tar command. The X says to extract. The Z says to uncompress it because it's compressed in gzip format. The V says to do it verbosely so that I can see it on the screen. And then the last of the option list here is the F. And right after the F, you put the name of the file that you want to enact this program on. So that's kind of the standard tar space XZVF space and then some file name. That's the generic way that you untar or decompress a file, or a tarball, I should say. So let's right click that and let's do it. So you can see it created a folder called WordPress, and then underneath it's got subfolders called WP admin, and there's a whole bunch of programs there. Now if I do an ls-la, there's a new folder called WordPress there. That's not the folder I'm going to use, that's just the folder where the installation got downloaded. At this point, you can erase latest.tar.gz because we don't need it anymore, because I'm going to go ahead and remove it. Want to get rid of it? Yeah, it's just going to take up space, so let's get rid of it. Then the next step is to copy or move. I'm going to ignore the word sudo. You want to copy or move all of the files into the appropriate folder. So that var www.html is not quite correct because of where we're moving it to. In fact, the only part of this command I really care about, and it's suggesting to use the rsync command because rsync is actually faster than move. It's and it also gives you a completion little gauge. So I'm going to copy and paste that into my little document over here, and I'm going to modify that command before I do anything to it. The rsync minus AV with a capital P is the only thing I care about. By the way, the capital P means preserve the permissions. I'm going to take out those two things because the WordPress folder is actually already in the folder I'm at. So ./WordPress. Let me show you what I mean by that. The folder is right here in the current directory. So the way you get into that folder, or if I wanted to manipulate anything in that folder, I'm referring to it as ./WordPress, or you could have just referred to it as WordPress. But it's always a good idea to refer to it with the current directory / so you're certain that you're manipulating a folder and not a file called WordPress. It's just a good habit to do that. And then I want to put it in a different folder, not .var www.html, and move that. Don't need that. Where's the thing I need? There it is. And I don't want to put it in var www.html. I want to put it in the public HTML folder. That exists right here as well. So that's all I got to do right there. Let's see if that works. Oops. I erased it. I did a cut instead of a paste. So as long as WordPress is there and as long as public HTML is there, should have no trouble doing this. Oh, actually, it's not copying and pasting into my virtual machine. I'll just retype it all. That's not a problem. It gets you into a good habit. So I'm I'm going to slide that off the screen so I can see what I'm doing here. So rsync minus AV capital P space. Let's just try it without the dot / that should work. I'm basically saying everything that's in that folder, put into this other folder. So I use a space, put it there. Aha, rsync command is not found. So I don't have the rsync command installed. Let's install it. Then we can execute the rsync command. All right. So now we still have an unmolested folder called WordPress, which is where our downloaded stuff is. But now if we go into public HTML, we see that we've got all of the folders and files there that we do want to start manipulating. You'll notice that they're all owned by root or nobody. So I probably need to fix that because I don't like the way that looks. So I'm going to back up from public HTML. I'm going to use a command that you probably haven't used yet, chown, ownership. We're going to try this a couple different ways. According to the Virtualmin website, it wants it to be owned by the web user, which is called Apache. Let's see what this other website here was suggesting installing under Virtualmin suggests. I think it needs to be owned by the name of the user for this domain. Funky Cat, pretty sure. Now it says root. Rename. So I'm going to go ahead and change. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, we'll change it. But the important thing is I'm showing you how to use the ownership command. CHOWN, the user, Funky Cat 2020, colon, the group, because there's a group also called Funky Cat 2020, space, and then I'm going to put in a minus. Actually, I wanted to put in the minus R here first. Backing up. Minus capital R. That means do this recursively in on all of the files and all of the subfolders underneath public HTML. Now, if I go back to public HTML, all of the files are now owned by Funky Cat 2020. Now, like I said, I may need to change that to root, but I don't think so. I think it's fine to keep them that way. I'm going to go ahead at this point and become that user Funky Cat 2020 because I now need to edit a file in here, but I want it to be owned by Funky Cat 2020. So I'm going to do su space minus space Funky Cat 2020. So now I'm that user, pwd. So it's potentially changed me into another folder. According to the instructions, now I have to edit a file. Whether I'm using the WordPress instructions for under Virtualmin or the generic WordPress instructions, both of these things are the same. You have to change at least 3 things. There's a file called wp-config right there. That's the file that I'm looking for. First of all, there's one called wp-config-sample.php. You want to first copy that to wp-config.php. So let's just see. Yep, there's the wp-config sample. So cp, wp-config sample to wp-config. Take the word sample out, .php. Then we're going to nano that file. And here are the 3 things we need to change. And it's already telling us what we need to change. I mean, it's given us a lot of instruction here. The database name, put the database name there within those single quotes. What was the database name? WordPress suggests that you create a new database called WordPress, but we don't need to. Let's just use FunkyCat 2020. It already got created for us.
If your WordPress is on a different instance than your database, how do you point your WordPress config file to a different database that isn't running on the same host?
In that case, then you probably do need to use either the root user or make a special user for WordPress called WordPress, or a special user just for the database, not necessarily root, because that's not necessarily a good idea to do that. And in that case, what you'll need to do is change that 4th thing. What Rahi's talking about is if I choose to run WordPress on a different machine than my database server, which you can certainly do. In fact, in larger installations, we do that. We don't run the database on the same computer that the domain is running on, that the website's running on. Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, well, I don't want to lose people, so you don't have to worry about changing DB, the DB host name. All you guys have to worry about is make the DB name the same as your domain name, make the user the FunkyCat 2020 user, and make the password whatever password you set up for FunkyCat 2020. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this all has to be correct or you won't be able to run the WP admin or the WP config program. So now I'm going to save that file. Hesitated a little bit there. I got worried. I hesitated, or it hesitated. Basically, it's describing the same thing here. So now in a web browser, so you're going to go back to your web browser and you're going to type in your domain name, funkycat.com/wp-admin/install.php to make sure it works. Okay. So let's see if it works. It may or may not work. If I just go there, that's still working, which it should because there's still an index.html file. WP-admin. What was it? Install.php? I think if you just go to WP-admin, that probably works too. Yeah, install.php. See if we get any errors. Nope, we're not getting errors. So that's a good sign. If you get that screen, that tells you that you got the username right, the password right, and the database password right. If you see any sort of errors, it says server error, DB name incorrect, or it should literally lean you towards what the problem was. It'll tell you your database password was wrong, your username was wrong, can't find a database. It's not running the MySQL. So now I'm just going to choose these options here. Site title, Jake's Funky. Website. Username. Now you can set up a separate username for just WordPress. So if you wanted to set up WordPress for a customer, for example, and you didn't want them to have access to the virtual domain at all, you could set up a specific username, but I'm just going to go ahead and use all the same stuff so that it's all generic. Username FunkyCat 2020, and I'm going to go ahead and make the password my little simple password here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to confirm I understand that's the weak password. I'm going to put in my email here. not going to bother clicking that. I'm going to click on Install WordPress. Should be literally a few seconds worth of installation. WordPress has been installed. Enjoy. There's your username, and the password is whatever you chose. Now we're going to click on Login. That's asking me to log in. Funky Cat 2020. And you can see my browser's trying to fill it in. That's because I've already done this once just to make sure I can do it. Log in. Welcome to WordPress. So this is that URL right there. That is the URL of your admin dashboard. So once you get this installed properly, your WordPress admin page is going to be that URL. Whatever your domain name is /WP admin. You do not share that with anybody. If you want somebody to check out what your web page looks like, you're just going to tell them to go to funkycat2020.com. So first of all, let's try that and see if it made any changes. Okay, hasn't made any changes. It's like, well, wait a minute, we should be seeing something like welcome to WordPress. This is a sample website. It's still showing that. That's because we need to get rid of the index.html file because there's an additional file there called index.php. So I'm going to go back into the folder here in the public HTML, ls-la index asterisk. I see two files. There's the index.html that I created, little 38 bytes of hello, blah, blah, blah. Then there's this new thing, index.php. That's a program. And the web browser by default, when we installed the web server by default, when we installed it, it first looks for an index.html. And if it finds it, it executes or just displays whatever's in that file. If that doesn't exist, then it will try to use index.php. So you have to get rid of that index.html. You can either remove it or I'm just going to move it to something else. HTML.save, just to get it out of the way. Oh, not move, rename it. I have to have a from and a to. I got a little overzealous there. Okay, so now, excuse me, if I go back here, refresh the screen, I should see an extremely generic WordPress website, and I do. There's the extremely generic WordPress website that if you can get this done, then you've come a long way. You've installed your first WordPress website. And then from there, we will begin adding new modules, and we'll begin customizing this. We'll begin downloading or uploading pictures to put on there. So by the end of the semester, everybody's going to have at least one WordPress website running with some sort of customization on it, at least one or two modules installed, preferably a usable module like either a store module or a blogging module. So let me just show you let's go back here to the dashboard. Where'd the dashboard go? There it is. So there's our WordPress dashboard. So let me just show you around a little bit. If you click on appearance here, we can change themes, and there are a few themes that are already pre-installed. Right now we're using a very generic theme. Let me just change this from the 2020 theme to this. Well, here, let's just click on customize, and we can customize this theme, and we can change stuff on it. This is basically the organization and a little bit of the text. So we could move some things around. It's showing it really large because it's a we can literally cut and paste things, move things around on this. At this point, what you would probably want to do is go watch a video on how to customize WordPress, because there's a lot of different things you can do. Actually, let me just change one minor thing. Let me change the theme to just an older theme. I'll change it to the 2019 theme. I'll click change so that it's just going to look, actually, let me change to the 2017 theme. I like that one. That's screen too big now. I like that one. I'll click change. Now let's go back and see if it made that change or not. I may have to activate it. I think I have to save the changes. Yeah, there we go. Activate and publish. It's like save my changes. You can make a bunch of changes, and not until you press activate and publish will it actually publish your changes. And there we go. There's the new Funky Cat theme website there. Blow that up, or blow it down, I should say. Shrink it down a little bit. Okay, so see if you guys can get that done. You can start to customize it a little bit if you want. I don't want you to go too far, and this is going to take some of you a little while just to get to this point, because you have to fix your Virtualmin, or you have to fix a few things that are keeping you from going here. I don't want you to install it on in var www HTML. I want you to install it in Virtualmin and make sure you can get to it with the domain name. You will not be able to, if you tried to go to 192.168.30.219 and didn't put anything after that, that works for the first domain. But if you add additional domains, it's not going to, you won't see those additional domains. You'll only see the first one or nothing at all. So that's why I'd prefer that you have Virtualmin running with at least one domain set up that you can get to it with the domain name. Okay. If you want to go ahead and begin what we're going to discuss on Monday, here's some of the things that you always should do when you set up WordPress. It comes with a few things in that theme and a few plugins already. One of them is leaving comments. That gets abused a lot if people set up a website like this, because there's a lot of spamming robots that will use those comments boxes to try to either crack the website, the WordPress, so they can get into it and use it to upload illegal videos and things like that. So one of the first things that we want to add is a CAPTCHA. So make sure you go Google for that. We want to, in other words, who knows what CAPTCHA is already, by the way? Get rid of this stupid bar. What is CAPTCHA? Stopping robots. Yeah, more specifically. I mean, you guys probably all know what CAPTCHA is, but can you say it in a sentence? What is CAPTCHA? What does it do for you?
Is it capture?
It's not. It doesn't capture things. It's kind of born out of that. But here's what it does. Correct. That's what it stands for. What it basically does is it forces whoever's trying to go to the website to prove somehow that they are a human, that they're not a robot or they're not a program. And you can do this various different ways. There's many different versions of CAPTCHA. Yeah, it's adding security. It will either, one version will present you with a picture with a grid drawn over it, and it'll say, tell me how many grids in this picture have a car in them or a tree in them. Or it'll ask you to do a simple math problem. What's 7 divided by no, well, that's not an easy one. What's 7 plus 3? And you have to enter the answer. Or it will ask you to type in a string of characters that have been published on the screen in all kinds of funky fonts that are tilted and that kind of thing. Or the newer versions of the CAPTCHA simply just have a box on the screen. So I want you to install the new box version, where all you have to do to prove that you're not a robot is to click a check mark in a box. And the way that basically works is if you were a computer program that was reading things off the screen, you would run your code to automatically go and check that box. But unless you put in some sort of randomization in your code, you're going to do it at the same time every single time if you're a program. But if you're a human, you're going to move your mouse in might look like you're drawing a straight line here with your mouse, but it's actually varying quite a bit. You can't make that mouse go in the same path every time. Also, the little box that it says to check on the screen is in a different space on the screen every time. Not radically different, but it's in a slightly different location every time. So that's how the newer ones work. So out of all the different versions, the picture captures, the math captures, there's a few others, or the read this string and type it in. I hate those, by the way. How many people have tried to use those before, where it gives you like a JLK030, it gives you a string of stuff, and all these letters are all different sizes, and they're different, different fonts, and they're different colors. Sometimes I can't tell an O is a 0 or a 1 is an L.
Yeah.
Like a 1 and an L in several fonts looks exactly the same. So don't use any of those. Okay, so one of the first modules that you will install, or one of the first plugins, I should say, is here's the site here, the dashboard. One of the first modules that you're going to want to install is a plugin for using CAPTCHA. They're called plugins. So it's only got a couple of plugins that it comes with. This Askamet anti-spam plugin and the Hello Dolly plugin. You're going to add new plugins. Okay. Now, there's a couple different ways to add plugins. We can't do it the traditional way. So I'll go ahead and show you this now, and then I'll end the class and help whoever can't get into their VMs get that working, because I know there's a couple of you. Let's say I just wanted to add that plugin. Since this is a private website behind a firewall, I can't just click install now. That's not going to work. Wait a minute, maybe I just lied to you. Maybe they fixed it. Oh, thank God they fixed it. Okay, so I was about to tell you the harder, more manual way to do that. And that's because what they used to make you do is, in order to download and install a plugin, your computer was actually being accessed by the WordPress site and uploading a file to your computer for you when you click that button, which was kind of a weird, stupid way to do it. Is your webmin password the same as your login credentials on your VM? It should be. It depends on whether you set that up that way or not, Rahi. So when you install Virtualmin, if you didn't change the password when you installed it, or didn't specify a password, it should be the same as your root user. But you should have, I believe it asked you to specify it when you installed Virtualmin.
I don't need help with that. Austin locked himself out of his webmin. And I don't know, because if you install the fail to ban plugin, if you fail enough times, it will ban you.
Oh, okay. So he might be literally locked out of his machine. What do you do? That like 5 times? Yeah. So if you've got something called fail to ban installed, which is another thing that we're going to do too, if that's not already installed. If you try logging into your CentOS or your Debian in most cases, and you fail, more than 3 or 4 or 5 times, it will literally block. If the firewall's on, it will block your IP address from even trying to log into your virtual machine. So what do you do if you forgot the password for Webmin? It blocked my host from too many attempts. Yeah, so to fix that, let me help you with that offline. But there's a couple different ways to fix it. I'll probably publish a video on that. But I need to more specifically see what your issue is, because it may not be fail to ban. It may just be something else. Okay, so are there any other questions at this point about installing WordPress under Virtualmin? Like what I'm looking for. Don't see anybody typing, don't hear anybody talking. So at this point, what I'll do then is I'll go ahead and keep this recording going. But let's see if I can, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can type in stuff over here without you guys seeing. So if anybody in here is having an issue accessing their virtual machine, first of all, in the EI lab, I'm talking about the Windows 7 virtual machine. Let me see if I can fix those first. So who was that on virtual machine Windows 78? And for those of you,
me, please, Professor.
okay, so for everybody else, you can continue watching if you like. I'll just keep going here until my next class. Or you can sign off and start working on getting WordPress installed on your Virtualmin. Remember to take snapshots. Okay, so virtual machine number 78. Were there any other questions?
Are you gonna show us how to do if you get blocked and stuff? How do you fix that? Or are you just gonna make a video about it?
I was going to make a separate video, but I mean, I can't. If you want to go ahead and hang out, I might still have time to do that. Let's see if I can get Raul's issue fixed real quick, because that's stopping him from even accessing Proxmox. Because if your Windows, you're not talking about, Raul's talking about accessing Proxmox, right?
Yeah, when I go on my Chrome remote, when I try to click on my VM, like it
Right.
doesn't let me.
And so, who was it? Not Rahi, but Austin was saying, he forgot the password for his Webmin, which is a different situation, which is actually easier to fix. You can fix that if I show you how. So let me see if I can remote view the domain controller in there first. I'm going to change your password back. This is the procedure I go through. I'm not going to show you guys. Or actually, I guess I could. You guys want me to show you what I do?
Yeah.
To fix these
For
things?
the Virtualmin?
Yeah, no, not for
Yeah.
Virtualmin.
Oh,
For, I'll show you what I do just because it's informational.
yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I need to change Raul's, I need to change your password so that I can possibly access your virtual machine. So there you are. Is that you, Raul Gil Samanas?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to temporarily change that password back to the generic password. You remember what it was? The VMJ all uppercase and then US3R exclamation point. That's the generic password I give out to everybody. I'm going to uncheck that for right now because I don't want to have to change it. I'm going to check that just in case for some reason it's locked. Now I need to remote view a different computer. You can see my screen, right? You guys can all see the screen. I'm going to remote view a different computer here where I am running the VMware or the vCenter to see what's possibly wrong with Virtual Machine 78. This will tell me whether it's off or not. And you're sure yours is 78, right, Raul?
78.
Okay. So vCenter is a dashboard that lets me see multiple VMware servers, just like Proxmox. It's very similar to Proxmox. And then there's also one other virtual machine I may need to check. I'm going to check the Citrix Zen dashboard where we glue the virtual machines to that Zen desktop software that you use in the lab, because it also partially controls the machines as well. Desktop studio. So looking at all of these, I should be able to get you fixed. Also, these are really small viewing like this. Okay, it looks like the machine is on. Let me check over to here to see whether this thing says whether the machine is functioning or not, or unregistered, as it were. Okay, it says the machine is unregistered. It's not in maintenance mode. There's not a problem with it. So I should be able to. Log in as it, and I'm going to pretend I'm in the lab. You guys aren't in the lab, obviously. So in the lab, we fire up Internet Explorer. And we go to that website, zen.eilab.bauer.uh.edu, if you remember from the beginning of the semester. The username is your student ID, which it's okay that people are saying this, right?
Yeah, I don't mind.
1532919. Password is that VNJUS3R exclamation point, and then the domain is eilab, excuse me, eilab. My fingers don't want to type that because that's not a real word. What should be going on right now is this is telling the Citrix Desktop Studio to register that computer, that virtual machine, and turn it on. So at some point that should become to say in use. I'm going to click on off of it and back on search here. I'm going to make sure it's assigned. Now what I may need to do is turn the machine off and back on. If this fails. Oh, that's why I was doing it. I think it was pausing because it was asking me if I wanted to store that password or not. Now, if that machine were off, this should also be turning it on, and then I should also see that here in my log. I should see a log of machine number VM78 being turned on, but I don't see anything. I want to try to see if I can just view it right here. Just to see if there's not anything funky on the screen. Okay, so I can see it there, and so That's yours, right? Is that yours, Raul?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like the virtual machine is working. You just lost connection to it somehow. So let's see. Let's check a few things since I can access it this way. This is a really slow way to access it through VMware, but at least I can try. Oh, the site can't be reached. Oh, okay. I know what the problem is. Here, I saw this on some others. The problem is, and this is probably my fault, and that's because I told you guys to edit these settings, possibly, and point your machine's DNS to your web server. But if you change your DNS to only your web server, then it can't find anything else. And if that doesn't work, then you can't talk to your machine from the outside world because it can't get to the outside world. You weren't the only one that did this. That's okay. Okay, so here, that's the problem right there. So you put in your IP address, which was okay to do, but you don't have any alternate DNS server in there. So the better way to do this would be put that 192.168.20.249, put that information into the hosts file of this computer, just because it's easier to do that. Notepad. So there's Notepad. I'm going to go ahead and show people again how to do this. So there's Notepad. Run as administrator. Yeah. So help me remember that number, 20.249. That's the IP address of the machine you set up, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let's go ahead and fix it so that you can have access to it.
Thank you.
Don't mess with the Notepad anymore. I'm going to click that back to obtain the DNS server information automatically. And now, the moment I do that and the moment I save that, you should be able to go to your Chrome remote desktop and see it pop up, I promise you. Why don't you go try that while I'm still continuing this for you?
I still won't let me click on it for some reason.
Why don't you try reloading the URL?
Yeah, I reloaded and it still gives me that gray thing that I can't click on it.
Okay, give me one moment. I might need to reboot this computer for you. Although I don't think so, but we might need to, or it might just be hesitating. There's that host file you need to edit, by the way. Oh, you have it in there, rgil.com?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well then it's there. Let's go back to Chrome Remote. Let's make sure that we're getting Chrome Remote working. This is a good sign. If I can see this screen, you should be able to see this screen also from your laptop.
Yeah, I see the screen, but when I try clicking the 78, yeah, it appears like that.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it looks like setup remote access got turned off. I'm going to turn it back on for you, and I'm going to set a generic password for you, and then you can go log into it and fix it. You need to change in other words, you need to change your remote PIN. And I got to get ready for my next class. So let me try to see if I can get this done quickly for you. I'm going to make that pin just 1 through 9, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 for right now, okay?
Okay.
And you can change that back, and please nobody else in the class steal his computer. I know who you are. I need to re-enter it. Okay, so refresh your screen and it should show up now. Oh, it looks like it's downloading the code and installing it. Okay, so Austin, if you're still having issues, if you locked yourself out and if Rahi's not able to help you, send me an email and I will get that fixed for you just as soon as.
I see it working now. I just can't access it because you have it on, but thank you.
Okay, so you're able to use it now? Okay, let me
Yeah.
get out of that screen now because I don't need to be viewing it at the same time as you. So if anybody else is having that problem, that's probably what happened. And that was my fault for kind of directing you guys down that path. So if anybody else is having trouble with the Linux virtual machines or Virtualmin or even WordPress installation, send me an email. I'll see if I can get you fixed up after my 4 to 5:15 class, because I'm going to be teaching 4477 now for the next 3 hours. So see if you get, see if you
It
can get
fully
this-
worked. Thank
What's
you.
that?
It worked. Thank you.
Good, glad I got you guys fixed up. Thanks for participating. I'll end the recording now and I'll see you guys on Monday. And like I said, I'll see if I can post a video or post some additional information on fixing or using fail to ban and getting yourself unbanned from your own server if you, or what you do if you forgot your password along the way. But in the meantime, all these questions can usually be answered by simply Googling how to reset password CentOS 7, how to reset or how to recover lost root password CentOS 7, how to recover lost password Virtualmin, how to recover lost password WordPress. You can usually find step-by-step answers. So I'll see you guys later.
Thank you.
Thank you for participating. Where's my off button?